Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix and Cinema, the podcast that is wondering what day it is, because it seems that they are going really, really quickly. My name is Tosin. I am your slightly under the weather host near Birmingham in the Midlands in the UK, and joining me on the Isle of Wight as always is Sharon Bollen.
Hello.
And the slightly under the weather as well, Shaun Harris.
Hello.
Well, Shaun, maybe not quite under the weather, but you were saying that you are feeling a bit sort of, shall we say, autumnal.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the thing is, what you got to understand is I haven't been cold for a year. So I haven't been cold for a year. So I woke up and I thought, whoa, there's a chill in the air. And some people have said, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I said, it blooming is, but you know.
Well, because you spent all of last winter in Thailand.
Autumn
Yeah.
and winter in Thailand, but
Yes,
really.
yes, really. So this is, it's like hitting home, and I'm getting back the old bone aches, you know what I mean, and thinking, oh no, I got, the old sciatica and the war wounds and what have you, and all that. So, because of course, when you're in the sun, you don't get any of that.
Okay, so Sharon, I think what we're gonna have is we're gonna wake up next week and the show's just gonna be gone again. We're gonna wake up next week and we're just gonna be seeing nothing but of Shaun, but Facebook updates from somewhere in Thailand, somewhere warm where his bones don't hurt.
Yes.
All right, cool. So if you haven't listened to us before, we at Netflix and Cinema, what we do is that we go to the cinema. Well, most weeks we manage to get to the cinema. It's been a bit bad from everybody except Shaun. Shaun has been the only one going to the cinema over the last seemingly 3 weeks. But we go to the cinema, we see things, rate them out of 5. We stay at home, we watch things on various streaming platforms, rate them out of 5. And then we say, where has the money been better spent this week? This week we have one sole representative of cinema, and that is Don't Worry Darling, which was seen by, you've guessed it, Shaun!
Yay.
Shaun was the one who saw Don't Worry Darling. And, and at home, let's see, so we're each going to bring one thing that we've seen at home to bring forward to the point to go into the sort of Netflix and Friends side of things. So, Sharon, what have you seen?
I saw Devil in Ohio, which is a limited series on Netflix.
Devil in Ohio. Okay, cool. And Shaun?
Okay, well, I went on Netflix. I saw the Oats Studio.
Oats Studio.
And, and I'm sure I've seen some other stuff, but at cinema, I've seen Don't Worry Darling, and I did go and see Jackie Brown. Remember last time?
Yes. I was going to ask you about that. And I have seen Light and Magic on Disney Plus. So, hang on, let me just get rid of this virtual black background. And so let's kick off. First of all, Shaun, you went to last week. We were talking about seeing Jackie Brown. You were talking about seeing Jackie Brown in cinemas, and you were all kind of like, "Oh my god, I love it! It's one of the best Tarantinos." You're like, for your money, one of the best Tarantinos.
Definitely, go on, sorry, Toes. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, I'm guessing you saw this in cinema the first time round.
I did, yes, indeed, I did.
What was it like seeing it on the big screen?
It's a terrific movie. It's a terrific right from the the titles right at the very start. I'm sure you've seen it. It's like, and to actually see it and hear it on the screen rather than on the TV, it's like you've seen Jackie Brown, haven't you?
I've seen Jackie Brown.
Yeah, the start where she's like on the conveyor belt.
Oh, the conveyor belt, the airport,
do like real proper 70s, titles and 70s music. Great soundtrack, terrific soundtrack, and it just sets you up for the movie, and it just reminds me so much of that time because it's even got like the little copyright sign and all sort of stuff on the titles. Sets you in the mood straight away, sets you straight into the film. Now this probably would be, and I mean I love Tarantino because he totally. We were speaking about it last week about how you and Quentin Tarantino seemingly share the same brain. We do exactly, yeah. So the story. I should imagine most people would have seen this. It's a heist movie. It's obviously got Samuel, talking about AK-47s and stuff like he does as Odell. I mean, I think.
Shaun?
You see, that's a really, really strong camera. Hello?
I think we might just have just.
I'm not particularly not. He's not a particularly nice character, but in I still like him. I don't know, for some reason I can't help like him. I mean, that is bizarre, isn't it? Really, because he's not, And when Beaumont, even if you know Beaumont, but he's just Beaumont. Anyway.
Oh yeah, Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker's in that film as well.
Yeah, I know.
Chris
What
Tucker's
is that?
in Jackie
that's
Brown.
just like, you wouldn't recognise him. It wasn't until I thought I noticed him again when he's like, "Hey man, what'd you?" And Chris Tucker. I mean, you would never notice Chris Tucker. He looks so skinny. He looks
yeah. In the beginning of his career, he was known for being skinny. Skinny was kind of his thing. Skinny was kind of his thing. All right, Shaun, I think I'm having a couple of problems with your connection. It dropped out a little bit there. All right, so now the Jackie Brown. So lived up to expectations. You enjoyed it.
Yeah, immensely. It's probably my top film actually. If I had the Tarantino ones, I was trying to rate them. Like you rate a director.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no. So Jackie Brown's got to be my that's my top Tarantino movie. I think after seeing it again, it was just fantastic. It was, I mean, I love the car park scene with De Niro and Fonda. I mean, it's just like, and I can relate to that. I can relate to someone, who's like, there he is, he lost the car, where's the car? And it's just like, So the whole thing is terrific.
Shaun is just confessing to getting really, really annoyed by somebody's voice in a car park and doing something untoward to the due to being annoyed by their voice. Right. Okay. And before Shaun says anything even more incriminating, especially seeing as we have a former, police constable here, we are going to move on. We're going to move on. And And I would just we're gonna go to the bit where we have feedback. We have feedback from people who give us any attention whatsoever. And guess what? After all this time, is still providing feedback for us on our YouTube channel.
Oh, Sharon.
The old Persuasion, can it? Surely.
Sharon, it can be, and it is. It is the old Persuasion, where somebody called Colette Cole has just come on and said, I would love to hear what Netflix response would be to all those bad reviews. I would also just like to make a list of all the adjectives and complaints of just the titles of the negative criticism. Quite the gamut and entertaining in itself. So I think this is somebody who's been going around YouTube and just finding all the bad things that people have to say about Persuasion. So but it does sort of like link onto the thing that Shaun, you were saying about how you don't think Netflix actually care about making things that are good. They just care about things that are going to get eyeballs. And this kind of goes into that it's kind of like, yeah, we don't care. Is it good? We don't care. Are people talking about it? Yay. I'm like,
I mean, even perhaps negative publicity might make people see, well, can it really be that bad? It might actually make people watch it because, they think it's that bad. They want to see for themselves. So, it might have that effect.
It was in the top 10 films and recommended films for about a couple of days. I mean, I don't think it stayed in that top 10 for very long. So I think everyone watched it and went, ugh, and then it sort of disappeared. So that the people who wanted to watch it saw it probably straight away. And from my sort of Netflix account, I've never seen it since, quite frankly. Even when I've been scrolling through different films, it hasn't appeared.
Oh, it had a couple of days of grace before the Jane Austen Twitter and the Jane Austen internet found it and descended on it, and then it had a whole other kind of life. So yeah, we had that on Persuasion. So it's finally started dying down a bit. Oh, and Shaun, we still have to watch it because we promised.
We did promise, yes. We'll have promised to see that.
So we still have to watch it.
Can I just say one thing? There was a thing, and I think it was Tuesday night, 6:30, and it was on Radio 4, and it was someone who Jane Austen was talking about Jane Austen and bringing it up to date. And Sharon, you really need to listen to it. You probably get it on BBC Sounds, but it was on Tuesday, and it was all about Jane Austen. But she was a comedian, and she was comparing it to modern day, like saying it's the modern day. Basically, Jane Austen is the modern day Tinder, like with matches and stuff like that. Yeah, you would have enjoyed it. I thought of you. Brilliant. Anyway, sorry, digress.
Okay, and also on the review that we did of The Sandman, we had somebody who has just, and let's see whether they can figure out what this person is doing here. This person's YouTube name is just Sandman, and what they have written on our review of The Sandman is, Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream, in brackets, bung, 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 bung. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen, in brackets, bung, 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 bung. Give him 2 lips like roses and clover, in brackets, bung, 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 bung. And carries on and on and on until we have the entire lyrics of the song Mr. Sandman. And that is the entire comment. To which I replied, I kind of love this. But I was like, okay, cool. If that's your thing, I'm not sure if they're going around and doing that to all of the reviews of everything Sandman wise. But that's that bit done with. And now let's get on to the bit we're actually here for. And this is films in the cinema, which I have not been able to get to see because of life. Life sometimes just says there will be no films for you. So, Shaun, last week you spoke about See How They Run, a film that I wanted to see, and I was like, okay, next week, Don't Worry, Darling. I'll get there for Don't Worry, Darling, because I've been looking forward to watching Don't Worry, Darling, and getting rid of all of the publicity and all of the nonsense and all of the stuff that's been written about it and said about it, just getting rid of that and actually just watching this film. And unfortunately, life happened, couldn't see it. So unfortunately, Shaun, we're leaving you to talk about it on your own. And maybe I have a plan. I have a plan this weekend, right? And that is that get my wife and my child to bed around about 7 o'clock. And then Saturday night and Sunday night, that's me in the cinema. Just get to
cool, that'd be good.
And See How They Run, Don't Worry, Darling. That's my plan. We'll see how that goes. And I'll be able to catch up and let you know what I think about See How They Run and Don't Worry, Darling. But Shaun, I'm sure that you have probably ignored all of the hoopla that has surrounded this film. And you're probably
I know nothing about it. No, I'm totally unaware of anything what's gone on in this film. Really,
Shaun, trust me, your life is better for it.
Right. Okay.
your life is better, but this film has there's the film and there's been so much publicity about it that I honestly think is going to hurt the film. I feel like there's been all this hoopla about what was going on behind the scenes and who was doing what and who said what about who did what, or whether Shia LaBeouf was fired and what that means. I think that so many people have enjoyed the build up to this film so much that the film's gonna get here and they're gonna be like, but I wanted this to go on for a while, because once the film goes on, the hoopla is going to stop. And I think there's a lot of people who are enjoying the hoopla and do not care about the film. Very similar thing happened with Snakes on the Plane. Loads of people were making noise about it before it came out. Once it came out, nobody saw the film in the cinema. And I unfortunately think that's going to happen with Don't Worry, Darling. But enough about people and the fickle nonsense as to how you make money in the cinema. And let's get on to whether the film is actually any good. So Shaun, please tell us about Don't Worry, Darling.
Okay, Don't Worry, Darling. So probably my favourite contemporary actress at the moment, Florence Pugh, who I think is just terrific in everything and is terrific in this. So the story is basically, it's like 1950s. It's this lovely suburban, idyllic lifestyle in somewhere out in the desert, somewhere out in the desert. But there's everything there for these ladies, everything there for, ballet lessons, ballet classes, yoga, shopping, malls, everything. There's everything there. It's just like a totally idyllic 50s certain place, and all the ladies there, they've got husbands, but all the husbands.
So I was gonna say it looks a little bit like it's when a company in the 50s, you'd have a big company and they would get a whole bunch of people and they would provide them with a house and they would all live in this sort of, and it seems like it's one of these areas where everybody works at the same company, but all the ladies stay at home and all the men go off to work at the factory or whatever it is.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, I was coming to that. It was like one of those big ones, like I think Hoover was the same, or Cadbury's in this country it's it is that exactly. But all the husbands have got nice time, but they all go off to work at this place every morning at the same time, and they all just drive. They all get in their cars, and all the cars follow each other to this place. It's in the trailer, so it's
yeah.
Anyway, and so pardon. Very Stepford Wivesies. Yeah, it's a little bit. I mean, it perhaps borrows from that a little bit. And basically, there's a few problems with one of the wives that's not particularly happy, and there's an accident, and it starts to make people, or at least the Florence Pugh character, start to question things and stuff. I can't really go too much detail because otherwise it's just going to be a total giveaway.
Yeah. But I think the trailer does a very good job of letting you know not everything is okay. Watch the film to find out what is not okay. Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to tell you what's not okay, but
Thank you,
the trailer, the trailer says it. So yeah, the acting in this, the acting's really good. Now, I mean, I don't know. Could you give me some sort of thing of the controversy of this film, or so?
Harry Styles and
yeah,
Fine not getting on. I have that.
Oh right, okay. That could, yeah, okay. I wondered if anything of what was said outside might come across in the movie at all, but I didn't. I mean, because I wouldn't know if it did. But
I think, Shaun, I could try and give you this thing, but essentially it would take a day. There's entire like 10-minute long internet articles that have been written about what was the hoopla behind the scenes on Don't Worry, Darling.
I should check that out. I didn't really notice anything. I didn't think Chris Pine was particularly good. I didn't think he was, I don't know, he didn't come across quite convincing. I think he can be a bit hot and cold, so I didn't like him very much in the character. Florence Pugh was excellent, and Harry Styles, which I suppose was a husband, I think.
He was,
was very well, and this, the chemistry between those two was really, really good. So some of the other characters, I mean, it was a pretty solid film. I think it was quite interesting. It kept me. I thought I might get bored with the lifestyle, with all the ballet and the yoga and the wives sitting around having a chat. There was an interesting thing that only one of the women has children. There's only one of the women that has children, which is so yeah. None of the other wives have got children. It's just one particular one of the wives has got a couple of children. So yeah, but none of the others have. So but they got some lovely cars in this Toes. They must have picked all the cars I love, all the proper American beautiful cars that, and it's just like,
well, the 50s style cars and everything.
Yeah, they're real like, oh, I'd love that one. Oh, look, you got Mercury, Cadillac,
with names like Thunderbird and all.
and obviously, So the Florence Pugh character, her husband, gets like a nicer car, because she's sort of starting to question things and all that. And it's like, oh look, darling, I've got a new car.
Oh, don't mess up the good thing we have.
Yeah, don't mess up the good thing. This is a fabulous thing. You know what I mean? Look, I'm going places they really want, and there's like a big party where he's like, oh yeah, come on up, and blah blah blah. So there's a lot of little underlying things.
Okay, Shaun, you are doing a sterling commendable job of trying not to spoil this film.
Yes.
So we'll just take it that so far you've enjoyed it, and I mean the fact is that you actually said to Sharon earlier on, you said, if you want to go see this film next week,
yes,
I'll come with you, and that is a mark of Shaun quality as far as I'm concerned. I don't care how much you love Sharon. If you did not like the film, you are not going back in there.
No, no, exactly right.
Yes. So the question is, with that, so you enjoyed it, but how many stars would you give Don't Worry, Darling? Let's put you out of your misery of trying to avoid spoilers, and just tell us how many stars.
Thank you, Toes. Yeah, I mean, it was really, really interesting. As I say, through the film, there was a few sort of bits that you picked up on until the end. So I didn't realise what the thing was. So that was very clever in that respect. And I really, really liked most of the acting was really, really good. I don't think Chris was particularly good in this. So yeah, so I'm gonna give this. I mean, I enjoyed this film. Hence, I see it again. So I'm gonna give this one a 4-star. It doesn't make a 5, but it's certainly
good
stuff. A 4-star for me, But it would be lovely for other people to see it, because they might, I mean, from what you've said, it sounds like it's not done particularly well, or.
Well, I don't know. It's just been released. We don't know what it's gonna. We don't know what it's gonna do. Like, it's just my worry. Actually, it's not. It's more than a worry. I'm pretty convinced that the film's not going to do well, because I think that the internet has had its fun with it, and the internet doesn't care if the film is any good.
No,
I think if the film is good, it actually sort of ruins the internet's fun. So, so I personally don't think it's going to do that well, and it's a sad thing, because I think Olivia Wilde, the fact that, I mean, even the idea of this film, I think this film it's different. There's nothing else out like it at the moment. It seems a bit original. Sure enough, there's elements of things that we might have seen before, like there's something very Stepford Wivesy in the trailer, and there's some certain scenes where they're around the swimming pool, and like Chris Pine is talking to all of them, that look like they could have been taken straight out of one of the first 2 episodes of WandaVision. So
yes, yeah,
it looks like it could have been taken straight out. But there's things that you've seen before, but the whole idea behind it and the way that they've put it, and there's nothing else out there like this, and I really hope that more stuff like this gets made, and I hope that Olivia Wilde, who made this film, who is like a lightning rod for a lot of the controversy around this film, I hope that she gets a chance to do more stuff that is not mired by controversy.
No. Well, I had no idea that Shia LaBeouf was supposed to be in this movie until you mentioned it. I had no idea whatsoever.
I didn't either, and I wish I didn't until all this stuff happened.
Oh, right, okay.
Until all this stuff happened, and then you go on Twitter, and there's all these Twitter things saying, ooh, blah, 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 blah. Ooh, don't worry, darling. Ooh, somebody spat on somebody. And it's just stupid. But anyway, I'm getting annoyed, so I'm going to move on. And
Yes, let's move on.
I'm going to move on, and I'm going to see Sharon, please. Now we go away from the cinema side of things this week, and we go on to what we've been seeing at home. Sharon, what have you seen at home? Tell us about it.
Okay, I have seen at home a Netflix limited series called Devil in Ohio.
Right, tell us about this.
It's an 8-parter. I don't know if it's based. I think it's an original drama. It doesn't say it's based on a novel or anything. And it stars Emily Deschanel. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her surname. And she basically is a psychiatrist who one day, while she's working in a local hospital, she works in a hospital dealing with trauma patients, and one day a young girl is brought in with wounds that would suggest that she has escaped from some sort of cult. Namely, she has a pentagram carved in her naked back, and this wound is obviously fresh, and she is in a state of trauma. So the story starts where basically she takes this where she, in essence, brings this girl into her own home because she can't find a foster home for her, and she sort of assimilates her in with her own children. She's got 3 daughters of her own. 2 of them are at high school, similar age to this girl. You won't know her exact age, but she's like 14, no, older. I'd say she's like 16, possibly 17. So the top end of sort of high school.
Yeah.
And then it's a seemingly sort of perfect life. She's a doctor. Her husband's has got his own property development business. She's got a postdoc daughter who is really into musicals. She's got one who's really into photography, and then her oldest daughter is sort of looking to go to university to study one of the sort of tech fields.
Yeah.
And then as this girl is introduced, it's like sort of dropping a pebble into a pond, and then you see ripples, and then as the story goes on, things start to unravel for her in her home life and in her personal life. And part of you have to determine whether it's the influence of this girl that's causing this, or whether the more they try to find out, the more involved she's getting in the cult, which has basically raised this young girl, and to the point where she's entirely indoctrinated, she's entirely part of this cult. And when she leaves, does she leave the question you have to ask is, does she leave the cult behind, or does she bring it with her into this seemingly
All right, you see, now one of these days I would love to see one of these shows or films or whatever it is where somebody has a seemingly perfect life, brings somebody else into the family, and nothing happens and everything is just fine.
They just have a happy life, yeah.
They just have a happy life. Okay, cool. So that is the setup. I think we can figure out you can figure out some of what's going to happen. Like, okay, lovely life, not going to stay lovely. There's probably going to be family secrets that come out. What did you think about this?
I thought it was well done. Again, I don't think it will come as a surprise that this sort of unsettling presence starts to show the factors that are existing in this home. I think that's almost predictable. But I thought they handled it quite well, because it's involving a satanic cult. The suggestion of the occult is present, and so some seemingly innocuous events, in your own mind you're thinking, oh, is that, is there something other than like crows flying about? Are they just birds?
Oh yeah.
Are they symbolic of something else? So they sort of suggest sort of symbolism and elements of the other in it, but I think they did it very well. And there are different elements of there's a police officer who's investigating the cult because of this girl who turned up sort of effectively mutilated, and it's tying in with other incidents that have been sort of hushed up because of how influential this cult is in the local area. It's rural Ohio, which I know nothing about whatsoever, but I get the feeling that rural Ohio is rural, that these communities can be quite isolated, and so they can live within their own rules and be largely left to it.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting film. I enjoyed it. Well acted. But I watched the whole thing. So again, normally these films, I think, do I want to carry on? Well, I thought, no, I'm interested enough to keep going with this. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. Well done.
Cool. How many stars?
Again, I want to give it a high 3.5. I think it's verging on 4, but for me, because there is that element of we might have seen something not exactly like this before, but we more or less know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't quite get the 4 territory for me, so I'd certainly give it a strong 3.5.
All right, cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. So that is it for The Devil in Ohio. Would you call it more of a thriller, detective, or a horror thing?
I think it goes more down the detective thriller line than horror.
All right, cool. Good stuff. Right, and now we go on to myself. What was it? I keep forgetting what it was. That was it. Light and Magic. Light and Magic on Disney Plus. Now, Light and Magic, for those of you who have been film buffs a bit like me, when you hear Light and Magic in the film world, there's usually a word that comes before Light and Magic. What word would that be? Do you guys any idea, you guys?
Light and Magic. Illusion? No, I don't know.
No, okay, cool. Okay, maybe it's not as
cameras.
maybe it's not as much as I thought. It's industrial Light and Magic.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so this is a documentary. It's a documentary series. There are 6 episodes, and it's all about industrial light and magic. Probably one of the foremost special effects houses in
cinema.
In cinema, and it goes into how influential they have been, and it's really, really funny because it starts off and it goes into the whole idea because in the 70s there was some guy called George Lucas who wanted to make a film, and he wanted it to be all nice and kinetic and have all these special effects that did not exist yet. So what he essentially did is he built a company to make special effects for Star Wars, and this documentary goes in and brings in all the different people like Dennis Muren, Phil Tippett, Ken Ralston, who came together at the beginning. Most of them, who weirdly enough were inspired by Ray Harryhausen to begin with. A lot of them name check the original King Kong. A lot of them name check Jason and the Argonauts and how they saw those as kids. And they immediately went to and just started playing in the background. They started playing in the background, doing all these things that nobody thought was ever going to lead to anything. Then when it comes around to the time of Star Wars being made, it turns out that these people are exactly the kind of mad people that George Lucas needed to make X-Wings and Mos Eisley Cantina and all that kind of stuff. And it is fascinating. This is a documentary that I find is absolutely fascinating. The way it tells the story of everything. And sure enough, it's made by Disney, and it's made by Disney about a Disney company because Disney bought Lucasfilm, and these people all at Lucasfilm. So there's a little bit of, they're not going to make themselves look bad. They're not going to say, but it does start pointing out that George Lucas, for all of his problems when it comes to directing, behind the scenes has been massively influential in cinema. Because, for instance, even when it comes to editing, editing the video clips for this, I use a program called Adobe Premiere Pro, and it's called a non-linear editing thing. And the fact is that before George Lucas obsessed about this, all this stuff had to be done by hand. So you had to get the film out, and you had to cut the film. And when they were doing all the special effects, they had to put layers of the film and composite them and all that. And he expresses throughout this whole thing how his frustration was, there has got to be a better way. This just sucks. This sucks. And so from all the money he got, he put a lot of his own money into trying to figure out better ways of making the film process work. And they sort of draw a line through all the way from Harryhausen and people being inspired by Harryhausen, who ended up becoming Industrial Light and Magic. And then the guys in Industrial Light and Magic, they end up doing things like, the Star Wars stuff, and the Star Wars inspires a whole other generation of people. And then they go along and then they do things like they do the effects for Poltergeist, they do the effects for E.T., they do the effects for Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that inspires a whole other bunch of people up until the time when they do Terminator 2, and Terminator 2 blows a hole, and they just keep, and then by the end of it, you have people, because they have all this amazing archive footage of them doing the effects behind the scenes on Star Wars, you get to see all these people as young, and you get to see them grow old in front of your eyes until they are the old men. And you have these young pretenders who are coming in and going, I saw the stuff you did on Star Wars, but we can do better. And it is really, really, I really, really enjoyed it. I loved it. I thought that it was great, just sort of seeing almost like this sort of time capsule, hearing about all the things that happen behind the scenes, hearing about some of the ways they created some of the effects. And especially because they show clips of, like, Jason and the Argonauts, right?
Yes.
And the skeleton sword fight with Jason, it still blows my mind that
Stop motion, isn't it?
Yeah, it's stop motion. But the fact is, when you look at it, and you bear in mind that was made in what, the 50s?
Yeah.
That was made in the 50s. So when you look at when you have a man having a sword fight with this skeleton, and like the swords hit at the same time, and I'm just thinking that would have taken ages.
Yeah.
And to get it that good means that the people had to be obsessed. And it is so cool. I mean, there's bits of this bit where they talk about how everything used to be done in creatures. Like, when you had like they had the creature shop, and they would build them practically, and then they would manipulate them, and they'll do them in stop motion and all that. And they talk about Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park plays a massive part in this whole thing, where they came to doing dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. And originally, apparently, in Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs were going to be stop motion. But then there were two young guys who were like, no, I'm sure we can do this with computers. Because at that time, and they had this whole thing where you had like the older guys, Phil Tippett, Dennis Muren, they were a little bit, they didn't really trust computers. They weren't sure, but they were like, oh no, you can't do it. You can't get the texture. If you want it to be real, you actually have to build a thing. And they have this thing where these guys essentially went and they clandestinely built a T-Rex in a computer. And the way they do the whole thing, there's a bit where one of the characters, he says he was speaking to Steele, because this has appearances from George Lucas, from Steven Spielberg, from J.J. Abrams, from Ron Howard, from Joe Johnston. Wow. There's a lot of filmmakers in this thing.
It sounds like you was impressed with this. So how many stars would you give this one, do you think?
I would give this a 4. I really, really liked it.
It sounds great.
And I think Shaun, I actually think you would quite like it as well.
It does. Yeah.
Just when you go behind the scenes and you talk about the way these things were done and the way they built a lot of these things, I would give it a 4 out of 5. I mean, I think towards the end, the earlier bits, like when they're talking about it being in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, those bits are a lot more engaging. When it gets closer to present day and what they've done in the Avengers movies, I feel it peters out, and I feel like they don't really know how to get an ending, or how to they don't know where they're ending up with this thing. But I think that's probably because a lot of the innovation has been done, and the innovation is the interesting bit. Now it's just about making things look good. So yeah, I thought it was good. So I would recommend Light and Magic. I would say anybody go find it on Disney Plus. 4 stars for that. And now we get to our final thing. A final thing for this week on Netflix and Friends. And Shaun, this is Oats Studios.
Oats Studio, yeah. It's a short sort of mini series of episodes of, they're all individual episodes. They don't last, none of them last more than about 20 minutes. And it's a real mixed bag, this, because the first one is excellent. I'll be really quick with this one, because I think some other people would like it. There's some episodes that are good and some episodes are bad. And ideally it would be good to go through individual episodes. And if you ever get a chance to see it, maybe we can do that another time. But
I am on it. I've started watching it, but I wanted you to say.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I think. All
right. Well, I'll tell you what then, Toes. Well, let's go with the 2 now, and then we'll talk about that one. I won't give it stars yet, because, as I say, it's so varied. It is so varied with some good ones and some not so good ones. A bit like the Boys Diabolical that we watched.
Oh, the Boys Diabolical, yeah.
So because there's some that I really, really liked in this, some episodes, and there's others that are like, no, I didn't see, I didn't really get on with that. I mean, I will give it a star if you want me to. It's up to you.
Is it a drama series, or is it like shorts?
No, it's just all shorts. They're all different stories. They're all totally different stories. And there's like, the episodes they've all got different names, and they're all
apocalyptic.
That's the word. They're all post-apocalyptic sort of tones to them. So it's all in the future. It's all like
animated.
There's some animated stuff in there, and it's like that live action animated as well. You know, so you've got like. Well, there you go. So what have we got?
An anthology then.
Okay. The thing is with Oat Studios, and I know this is not a review of Oat Studios. Well, okay, Shaun wants to keep that for when I watch all of them.
Yes.
But the brainchild behind this is Neil Blomkamp, and you might recognize that name because he's the District 9 guy, and he had a couple of years in Hollywood where things were trying to get up, and I think Oat Studios came off the back where he had an Alien movie, and he had an Alien movie ready to go. He started prepping for it and everything. Then Ridley Scott came back in and said, I want to get back into Alien, and made Prometheus. So instead of Neil Blomkamp's Alien movie being made, Prometheus was made instead. And all of Neil Blomkamp's hard work was kind of like chucked out the window. So Neil Blomkamp retreated to Canada, and he just decided he wanted to do something where he would have control over it. It didn't have to be that important. And so this is a lot of these are the sci-fi tales, the tiny sci-fi tales that he made. And I know the first one, Raka, has Sigourney Weaver in it.
Yes, Sigourney Weaver.
And I think they're almost more from the what I've seen, because I remember when this first came out, before there was a compilation, they were on YouTube, and I watched some of them, and definitely watched Raka. I think I've watched one other of them, and they're almost like mood pieces. They're not really.
I sort of wonder if they were like, you know, like to see if they could be made into something more. I think it was like a little bit of a feeler, like
they're almost like experiments.
Experiments, yeah, that's a good word. Experiments to see maybe if something was particularly good or particularly popular, it could be made into a feature. You know, it could be made into a feature type of thing.
That is what he did with District 9, because he actually made a short called Alive in Johannesburg, which you can find. I think you can still find it on YouTube, and that's what ended up being turned into District 9. And I think he's done something similar with this. And some of them are going to be mood pieces. I remember even the one with Sigourney Weaver in it. I remember watching. I don't remember what happens in it, but I remember watching it and going, "Okay, what's happening here? What's the story? Where are we going?
Where are we going exactly? Yeah, where's this going?
What the heck was that?" and I remember just feeling like, what the heck was that with that? So with this, the second one, I started watching the second one, and it goes all Vietnam. It goes over Vietnam and Vietnam War, and it has some striking imagery. But I'm already getting the feeling like I'm not gonna get much storyline here. There's gonna be striking imagery, but I'm not gonna get much storyline. So I'll tell you what, Shaun. For you, I will watch through Oat Studios, and then we can sit down and we can talk about what we think about it.
Yes.
At the moment, I mean, I like Neil Blomkamp. I think he should be allowed to make more films, because I know there's a lot of stuff that he's started on and then gets taken away from him. There was the Halo movie that got taken away. There was the Aliens that got taken away. And I know he's just, I think he's a bit burnt by Hollywood. But because of District 9, I'm still like, okay, cool. Give the guy a break. But,
give the guy a break. That's it.
But I would watch it. I will watch it for you, Shaun, and then we can have a real Barney. We can have a real Barney about it, and we must watch Persuasion as well. We've got to. We've got to watch Persuasion. To watch that. We'll be able to. We've got to bite the bullet. We've got to bite the bullet, watch it, and then come back and say, Sharon, we're sorry, but we loved it.
We thought it was terrific.
We'd be like, oh, Sharon, oh my God, it's the best thing ever. All right, cool. So, Yes, Sharon. We know. We apologize. We apologize. We know that it's not going to quite. That's not what you want to hear. But it's life, and it's probably what's going to happen. but right until next week, when Shaun and I would have watched Persuasion, I would have watched Oat Studios. I would have snuck out of the house to see how they run, and Don't Worry, Darling.
That'd be good. Have a good old catch up.
Yes, have a total catch up. Have a total catch up. Just sort of like ignore my family for a week. Until then, I don't know. Shaun is probably going to squirrel out some other film and watch it while booking tickets to somewhere warm. All right, cool. So until next week, it's a goodbye from me,
and it's a goodbye from me.
And good from both of them at the same time. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye.
I look like I've got hair there, don't I?